How are you gonna go from super rough this to this, and then eventually this? No detailed sketch layer in sight. Hey guys, Whyt Manga here. In this video, I'm gonna be showing you guys how to pull it off. Well, technically how I pull it off, and maybe you guys can apply it to your own series. I applied these techniques to my manga. Deadlines were coming close, got some assistant help, and we were able to make it work. And as you will see by the end of this video, it still looks great. Mostly in the 5th volume of Apple Black, where all of the pages were done with this technique. And it looks just as good, if not better, than previous volumes where we weren't using this technique. This is a rough layout storyboard for a manga page. This is the sketch, and then this is the final page. Each step has its own challenges and takes its own amount of time. But what happens when you skip the sketching phase and then just jump from rough layout to the final look? This is a page from volume 3 of my series Apple Black. And at this point in the series, along with all the pages prior to this point or this chapter, I did do a more detailed sketch before inking. But in order to save time, hit deadlines and all of that, I started to skip this phase and just jump in from rough layout storyboard straight to inking, which has its own challenges. I was able to achieve the same quality while saving a lot of time. These are storyboards for a chapter from volume 4. This is a close-up of one of the cool pages in there, close-up of a double spread page. And we usually go from this to this. Depending on the purpose of the page, it would either be colored or toned. And in this case, we're going color, and so we went from this to this. In my case, I have some assistants to help out with backgrounds. So sometimes I'll still do a detailed sketch for some backgrounds so they know what they're inking. And here's an example of that. Send this to the assistant, and then the assistant delivers. It was just a straight up storyboard, blowing up that storyboard onto a page and just inking on it and pretending like it's a detailed sketch. Trust, it's not easy to do. Some of you might have seen me do this a couple times on this channel, and maybe you've tried it for yourself and it doesn't work out as well as you might like. So in this video, I'm going to be taking you guys through my mind, all the things I think about, seeing me do it in somewhat real time, not completely sped up, so you guys can experience what I'm thinking when I'm doing this and putting it together. There are a couple things that come into play each time to make sure you nail it. And for me, that is one, a familiarity with, say, the character you're drawing, or the world, or the environment. If you have a strong understanding of what you're trying to put together, you don't always need that detailed sketch. And sometimes that comes with repetition. Maybe it's something you've drawn so many times that you are familiar with it. You've essentially gathered XP. So do I recommend everybody to jump at this and find success? Not so much. I think this is something you gradually ease into, and maybe you do go the normal route with a more detailed sketch and then inking that. But as time goes on, you will build the next thing you need, confidence. That familiarity, that experience, it helps build confidence for you to start to draw things without a sketch layer. There are artists out there that draw without any sketching at all. They just jump straight into the inks. Maybe I'll save that for a different video, but the point is that has come with a lot of experience and understanding of the basics. Sometimes it's not just familiarity with your character, sometimes it's familiarity and experience and XP and all that jazz with, say, anatomy and drawing hands and drawing from different angles and different body types and character designs and yada yada yada. It's an aura, you know, that you've built over the years before you can truly become, I don't know, him or her. It depends. And another thing you will see me do is to take a step back and look at the drawing and adjust, make adjustments. You'll be able to spot errors and mistakes with your drawing, which also comes with familiarity and experience, where you're able to spot your mistakes and correct them in real time. That's something you're going to need to know how to do while doing this. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a demonstration where you guys see me do it from start to finish, and I'll focus on one character, the lead of my series Apple Black, Sano, with his new wand, Sawmander, which, funny enough, I haven't drawn Sawmander enough times to where I can just easily freestyle the wand and nail it the first time. So I might need reference for that. But either way, I'm not going to be using any detailed sketch to put this together. Y'all gonna see me do this from scratch, and I'll be narrating the whole process and how I make this work and how I have made it work, allowing me drop 5 volumes. So this manga drawing tutorial is also coming from the perspective from someone who's put 5 manga volumes out and a light novel. Revving up the engine. Well, look out. But before we rev up the engine and get to it, you can learn from even more basic and intermediate and expert level classes that focus heavily on this stuff. There are even curated tutorials and classes online to help you further, like on Skillshare, who in fact partnered with me to bring you guys this video. As you guys know, I'm a huge consumer of Skillshare. I've consumed a lot of classes like the one Patrick Brown does that focuses on characters in motion that helps sell that natural, non-stiff, dynamic vibes. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives with thousands of classes led by pros in the industry in comics, film, illustration, cooking, music, you name it. Invest in your goals by starting a learning journey on Skillshare to start that career, skill, or side hustle you've been thinking of. Even if you need help figuring out where to start, Skillshare has designed learning paths that help you get from novice to pro with curated classes edging you towards your goal. The first 500 people to use my link in the description get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. This is an example of the rough sketch. I'm drawing very tiny and small, and doing this actually helps save even more time because when you're drawing at a small scale, you're able to get much ground reached and actually have more of the drawing done quicker. You can then blow it up afterwards, and since it's just a sketch that you're not going to need, I'm not going to need it to be high quality or high definition, high res, whatever. I just need to know where things go. And here, I'm just figuring out the pose, making sure the anatomy and the perspective is correct or accurate enough for me to start. It actually doesn't even have to be perfect. It's rough on purpose. I don't need that many details. I might not even know where the eyes and the nose and the mouth and all of that goes. The more details I'm able to put in this tiny sketch, the better. But still, I don't always need to do that. And to illustrate this video perfectly, or as best as possible, I'm actually going to not draw as much details in this sketch. If you look at my storyboards, they're always very rough, but some pages are more detailed than others. The more detailed it is, the easier it is, but it's still very rough. And in this case, I want something rough for the purpose of this video. I ended up tweaking the legs a little bit just to do something a little bit more fun. But I wanted the character kind of looking back at the audience, giving that shonen inspiring main character energy smile. We'll go from there. So now that I've blown it up, start with the eyes. I already know where it's going to be. I know the upper lashes will be thicker. Sometimes drawing the nose first allows me to understand the distance the eyes should have, because there's sometimes, you don't want to draw the eyes too close to each other. And I just do this and erase the lines that don't work immediately. It's like a quick shortcut C on the keyboard, so my hand is on the keyboard at the same time, or whatever you're using, however you can get to it. And I can switch between the inks and shortcut C. When you hit shortcut C, it'll go back to the transparent, which is pretty much an eraser, but it's C for clear. And the C would take it back to where it was. If it was on the white, C will take it back to where it was. So I just have it on the black, and then I can just alternate back and forth. Now, Sano generally wanted to be an inspiring character more times than not, especially for illustrations like this. Let's, just have him smiling. Similar reasons you'll see a lot of shonen leads in the same position. And not too much angry eyebrows like so, more innocent. There is a freedom that comes with the strokes of the lines where even when it's a bit chaotic and not perfectly clean, that's okay. Lines for eyelids, some lines to suggest teeth if necessary. You can see how I've already done that face without any of the details that normally come with a more defined sketch. Shortcut C is at my disposal so I can redo lines much quickly if I need to. But things like, for instance, this ear, I've drawn so many ears that I don't need a more refined sketch to get it right. Now, sometimes I will be in a mood where I shortcut M, say, and I go to selection pen and I just select that part, then Command T or Control T, and I can just move it around to make more sense, or resize it, or rotate, scale, whatever, or just delete it. It all depends. But I'm also keeping in mind that I have all of that to my disposal. Here, something like his wand is going to be blocking a lot of him, so I'm actually open to, say I draw the line broken down into 7 parts. I can do that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And what I can do is clean those lines that don't connect. You shortcut C to do that. And then when I get to these edges, just give it a little bump. Again, familiarity is key here. These work best when it's something that you've drawn so often. And funny enough, I haven't drawn his wand as often, so there are times where I still go back just to make sure it's consistent. I go to old pages just to make sure it looks right. And then that's what you have, right? This is it right here. I've drawn hands so often. I can also rotate the canvas if I need to. And just like that, we have what we need there. Didn't draw the clothing on the character, don't need to. I've drawn the character so often that I don't need that. You're watching out for those quick strokes. Sometimes you do a little dashing for hatching, but I'm still taking use of the shortcut C so I can quickly erase. Control Z if I need to redo a line, and it's so quick. If I have some part of the clothing that, you know, I'm drawing after I've drawn the hand like so, just to show it's there and have it feel a little bit more layered, I'll just delete or erase part of the edges and have that bump. It makes it look a little bit more natural. There are times I'll go over lines just to thicken them again if the initial one was not enough. When I'm erasing, if I have a line like so, I always kind of come in clean, almost like I'm scraping the edges until I get what I want. I keep folds in mind, erase lines that don't work. Throughout this whole process, I'm not afraid of making a mistake, especially when working digitally like this, right? Now, if I remove the sketch, we're already getting closer to what we want. If I remember the design of the wand, there's a little mechanism here at the hilt, almost like a fishing rod to a degree. It's like a fishing rod and the handles of a bike at the same time. This is the wand salamander. So sometimes I'll erase lines just to get smoother. I would be correct. Again, not afraid of the eraser. Continues. So put it back. The hilt is over. Sometimes I continue it, imagining that maybe if two hands were holding it, that way I know how long it should be. And it's not smooth. I already know that. That's why I'm not having it be smooth. There is somewhat of a texture to it, so these lines will help suggest that. Sano is enough room for the forehead, and then I've drawn the character so much, so again, familiarity, that now I'm putting in the hair. The ear will be blocked. If I feel like it's not working enough, maybe the smile is not doing what I want, not afraid to touch that. Maybe I want it a little wider, like a wider smile. And sometimes I'll turn off the sketch just to make sure it's working right. And I think it is. And the character is kind of looking back. And I'll start maybe with a little dot to make sure it's on the right spot. And then I draw around it. Again, sometimes I'll redo it, reposition it until it looks right. And if he's turning his head, maybe the motion of the hair should suggest that to a degree. Sometimes I'll do something like this. And I want that to have a sharp edge, so I'll hit a shortcut C and then make it sharp by erasing it. And it just looks cleaner that way. It looks more natural. It's just a better approach. There's an overlap, so then I erase around it and do what I'm supposed to do. Now I'm looking at it. The head looks like it's a little bigger than it should be. And in cases like that, and this works best if you're maybe working with vectors, even though I'm working with a raster here, but it seems like the head should be a little smaller. So we have that. The elbow here looks a little off, and so clean that much better. Do lines if you have to. Maybe the clothes have a bump here as the wand is resting on it, and here. Some familiarity with our understanding of how to draw clothes comes into play. If we use those skills to our disposal. Turn it off. It's looking pretty decent. Want to change something? I think the eye here can be a little bigger. The other feet, thankfully, is blocked by all these clothes, so we don't have to draw it, thankfully. So sometimes all this stuff is like, you know, you're calculating all your decisions as you go. So I don't even always fully know how things are going to look in the end until I start drawing it. Here, we'll give a little bit more bump for the sole of the shoe. So sometimes I have those lines that just kind of form the shape a little bit, and it will help guide me as I then connect the dots. You know, in this case, maybe that can be a little bigger. And then we take a step back if it looks right. Not so much. And then we try again. I think the feet should be smaller. Take into account the sole of the shoe more. Feet can be a little longer if you want. Clean up those edges. Have a bump there, a bump there. Almost like these giant laces. Bump there. A little overlap there. And I think we're good. And then we turn it off and it looks better. Turn it back on. And then fill in some gaps like right here. And then some small one right here. Another bump right there. So it works. So it's like a double bump. Put everything back in everything in its right place. You can see that it's supposed to be on this side, but I'm just freestyling it on the end because I know it should be on the end. Do I absolutely need a sketch layer for it? No, I do not. For the hand, other direction, that. Hands can always be a bit tricky, but once you understand what you're trying to do, just keep working it until you get it. I'm thinking, is that head still too big? Maybe. I think this is more appropriate. So you got to take a step back sometimes and make sure what you're doing actually looks good or good enough. And then you go back and you clean things up. So now I can draw a little bit more of this ear because it's not overlapping. But what might overlap is maybe some of the character's hair over the wand. And so we block that part. So it's almost like I'm making calculations in real time. Putting in the rest of the details and mapping it to the body. Maybe this hand right here could be bigger. Come back here. And this wand, low-key, is actually very difficult to draw. Notoriously, even in series like Naruto, the creator didn't want to draw the goggles too often because it was very detailed. And as a result, the headbands were born, so he could just put that on top of the head and call it a day with a symbol, versus drawing a really intricate, detailed goggle. And so for this wand, low-key, I can see myself tweaking the design in some interesting ways that make sense moving forward. And it's parts like this where maybe I might go take a step back, look at reference, and then come back and finish it. But for the most part, this is the illustration, and this was born from this. And to me, it was much quicker than actually drawing a more detailed sketch. It was almost like drawing the detailed sketch and inking it at the same time. So drawing a detailed sketch and inking it is like doing double duty, where you can just do it once. Maybe slightly longer because you're going back and forth and cleaning up and erasing and all of that, but it's still faster than doing a separate layer for a more detailed sketch and then a separate layer for inking. So I finished up the tail end of Sano's Salamander brush wand. It's an evolutionary wand. It can kind of change shape here and there. But for the most part, it's a brush. And then now that the inking is done, I can transition either to toning or to coloring like I'm going to finish up Sano right now. Adding in the flats, layers for the shading, layers for all the additional adjustment layers and effects and all of that jazz. Then I apply this all to volume 5. The Rumble Trials. This is the beginning of the second arc in the series. It's kind of like a tournament arc. The next volume will be volume 6, the Nirvana games, and we'll get to that. But these are the pages that I've done this with, and I will continue to do this with this new technique where you skip this detailed sketch and just kind of jump into the meat of things and just start inking. These are some of the pages that we showed earlier in the video, but this is how it came out in print form. It was really cool to be able to see all these pages by the end of all of this after putting in all that hard work to knock this out. I have a video where I talked about knocking out 150 pages in 100 days. I actually had to do 200 pages in even less time, or about the same amount of time, for volume 5, as there were a lot of things in the way that kind of pulled me to doing and working on other things, so I wasn't fully working on volume 5 in, with all the time that I did have to work on it. So it was a bit of a mess, but we figured it out. The assistants came in clutch. I pulled in all those all-nighters, and I'm very happy with the results. Some of this is from volume 4 as well, and I've kind of continued to take this approach and maybe even improve it as time goes on, just getting better and better at it. And my assistants are also getting better at it. I even finished a different project that I can't even talk about right now. Another 100 pages done towards the end of this year. And we used the same approach and we knocked it out. And that's a full color comic. So it's working out. You guys can see the end results. And I've been happy so far. Hopefully you guys are too. And you guys enjoyed all the books so far. They've gotten great reviews, gotten endorsements from Tony Valente, Sanford Green. And I'll continue to knock them out. Shout out to everyone who's gotten any of my books. 6 would probably be green or teal. For the 2.5 people that made it to the end of this video, I thank you. If you supported me in any way, merch, books, using my Skillshare link, everything you could possibly need will be in the description. Thank you. Don't forget to like and Holy Ghost smash the subscribe button and hit the bell so you stay notified each time I upload absolutely anything. Turn on all notifications. Check out more videos. It's Whyt Manga. And I'm Audi 9000.